The Lighthouse of Deliverance, that's what this place is called. It was 100 miles from Aunt Mary's house to Ishipishi Falls. My new car, the first and only one of my life, still smelled like cleaning solution and plastic. I hadn't even set all the buttons on the radio yet. I was looking for an excuse to put some miles on it. Ishipishi Falls tumbles through a bend on the Klamath River in Northern California. My tribe, the Keduk, have fished at Ishipishi since before Europeans came to California, searching for gold, fur, and souls. When I was 9, my grandmother took me there. On the bluff overlooking the falls, her mother was buried. It wasn't a graveyard, just a wide patch on the side of the road with a few family graves. I was not sure the grave would still be there or if the river might have washed it away. Aunt Mary was my grandmother's younger sister. Her home in the small town of Wairika was short and squat like her. Although it had been years since I visited, the streets of Wairika were still familiar to me. The house was easy to find because it sat next to the Lighthouse of Deliverance Church. She lived there before the church was built. It was too convenient not to attend. Ayuki, I said as she greeted me at the door. It was the first Keduk word I ever learned, the one I knew best because I'd said and heard it so many times. Sitting at the formica table in Mary's little kitchen, a cousin of mine who I'd never met told me he fished at Ishipishi during eel season. Reaching out his hand, he demonstrated his technique for pulling the eels off the rocks. Ever eat eel? He asked. They're real greasy. But if you grill them, they're great. I'd never eaten eel, grilled or otherwise. I didn't even know this was something our tribe ate. Mary asked why I wanted to see the falls. The truth, that I hoped it would reconnect me to my tribe and my family, sounded like the stupidest non-native thing I could say. Gotta put some miles on this new car, I said. It felt like bragging, and I immediately wished I'd said something else. Mary had never had a new car, yet here I was in my 30s and single, driving this shiny Ford Focus around. A new car was a big deal in our family. There was even a telephone tree specifically for sharing such news. Did you hear so-and-so bought a new car? No, not new to her new, but new, like with 37 miles on it. To reach Ishipishi Falls, I drove State Highway 96 that snakes through mountains and follows the Klamath River. 2 lanes, no shoulder, and brush reaching out from all sides. In all directions, I saw thick forested mountains upon mountains. I took a right at the Ishipishi General Store. Then after a few yards under a cathedral of trees on a one-way road, I came upon the bridge that crosses over the river. Ishipishi was not a tall waterfall, which surprised me. Somehow I confused my memory of the tall waterfall in a Bugs Bunny cartoon called Little Hiawatha's Bunny Hunt when I was a young girl, what I had seen as a young girl. The real Ishipishi was a gradual drop, stretched over a quarter of a mile, with huge boulders on both sides of the river. These were the rocks where the fishermen usually stood to dip their nets into the water. It was the last spot on the river where tribal members were allowed to fish with traditional dipping nets. The road continued over the bridge to the place where my great-grandmother was buried. I stood on the bluff overlooking the falls. The spot could only charitably be called a modest gravesite. Overgrown with weeds, it and the other headstones looked untended. No names or dates, just a marker. The sky was a deep, clear blue that made me think I could see all the way to Nevada. If some big red bolt of lightning is going to hit me, now would be the time, I thought. This is why I came here, hoping this ancient spot would connect to my history. I'd finished graduate school the previous year and was starting to feel like the bootstraps I'd used to pull myself up were pushing me away from my family. The Klamath River rolled on by below. I heard the drone of an ATV as it raced up some nearby dirt road. Nothing. That evening, I drove Mary through the new subdivision the Tribal Housing Authority had built on the bluffs overlooking Interstate 5. Soon she was going to move into a brand new house here. As we cruised through the new wide streets, Mary read the names on the signposts. Hook Street, Punefit Street, Apsom Road. Some were familiar words I remembered. Others were new to me, and I stumbled as I repeated them. The next day, with a hug and a wave, I began a long drive back to my home in Pendleton, a small town in Oregon where I'd recently started a job. 2.5 days earlier, I thought standing above Ishu Pishu would be the meaningful part of this trip. But the real connection was made while spending time with Aunt Mary. She'd known me my whole life, and our connection had little to do with the plastic tribal ID card in my wallet. When I sat in Mary's dark little kitchen, there was no question about whether I was connected to her. The only question was, when are you coming to see us again? Thank you.
Our next roulette describes the sensuality of the sounds of words. Please welcome Rebecca Raphael.
Hello, I'm what we call late deafened. I started losing hearing after acquiring language and auditory cortex. So this is a bit from a memoir I'm working on about listening to poetry with my cochlear implant on the first day, which was 15 years ago, but I'm finished writing this book this year. So. The title's Rare Device. Home alone, at last. The cochlear implant made a continuous ethereal hum. As far as I could tell, this high hum did not represent any sound in the environment. It was the sound of the map itself, a frothy sheen floating around the waves, rising and falling with the swells of speech, but never entirely going away. Speech came under this cover, subdued, almost incidental. Can't find a fresh notebook. Found one, crossed out astronomy on its cover, and wrote under the cross out CI. Got my Norton Anthology of Poetry, my poetry CDs, and settled in at the stereo. Do-it-yourself audio rehab. Read poetry while listening to the recording. Poetry has all that additional acoustic structure. That's what I tell people who ask how I learned to hear with a CI. But I just wanted my hearing to begin with poetry. Sir Patrick Spence. The king sits in the furling town, drinking his blood-red wine, while stepping the second verse. Norton and the CD seem to have different variants of the poem, or was my hearing just that far off? Skipped ahead a few centuries to Shakespeare. The reader's voice sounded quiet under the throbbing wine, went to the sessions of sweet, silent thought. If I focused on the voice, the wine distracted less, and I could follow along with the text. But if I looked away from the text, I got lost. Then can I draw an eye, unused to flow, became a game to find a place again. Consonant sounds were clear, but seemed to mill about on their own, independent of complete words. Oh, the lovely T's, K's, and S's. But I had no idea what they meant. It was easy to recover from small lapses, but more difficult to find the place again the longer I was lost. The trick was to find a sequence of text that matched the sequence of phonemes I was hearing. Then my perception would crystallize again, and I would hear not only the sounds, but also the sense, the Scott's swords at his feet. I dipped in and out of the sense for at least an hour. Each poem came with a brief introduction for which I had no text, no visual clues. I could understand a few phrases of these, something I had not been able to do in years. By the time the CD reached the romantics, I felt confident, even cocky. Blake's The Tiger was so thrilling that it repeated it several times. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night. What a mortal hand or eye. On repetitions, I would look away from the text. A small gesture, but how altered in meaning. For me, for years, seeing was hearing, and to look away was to break communication. Now, for the first time in my adult life, breaking the line of sight meant something else, not a disconnection, but a reach. I missed a few lines, but most of it was clear. What the hand dare seize the fire? Coleridge's Kubla Khan. I began as before with hearing aid on and CI and the text before me. The first stanza floated, sound and sense together across the room and into my brain. Gave me another idea, something unthinkable only hours ago. Turned my hearing aid off. No ears, no cochlear hair cells, no aids. All the sound I heard now came through the implant alone, algorithms firing electrodes. Lost immediately. Second stanza. But I did not reach for the aid switch. Under the hum, a sensuous river of consonants flowed, but I couldn't find the current. I tried to match sounds to text, missed, thought I had recovered, missed again, resigned to floundering in nonsense till the end. And then I heard it. Voices prophesying war. Strange feeling of convergence, the phonemic flow fitting into being the words, the meaning. Third stanza, a quartet of those thinnest sounds that disappear first into hearing loss. F's, V's, T's, S's, sounds I had not heard in 20 years. It was a miracle of rare device, a sunny pleasure dome with caves of ice. Rare device, ice, ice, weave a circle round him thrice. Eyes, mouth watered, sound of the implant alone, and close your eyes with holy dread. From head to hips, I shuddered. No looking now, only hearing, and only through the machine. For he on honeydew hath fed, and drunk the milk of paradise. Again, a shudder down my spine, sustained trembling. I know this. Next.